Good morning. There's no way I'm going to wait till 4:44 this morning. 2:22 is going to have to do. I fell asleep watching the Collective Imagination last night and I didn't wake up till 12:30 a.m. and got out of bed. Oh, 1 o'clock, thereabout. There were no triple numbers, so I don't remember. What triple numbers catch my attention and I lock them in. But if it's not a double or a triple number, I don't usually even remember what time it was that I looked at the clock. Only an approximate time is sufficient. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The title for today is Spirit's Greatest Gift is Being Embodied. Yes, I agree that human life is challenging. That it's sometimes very painful is an understatement. It's very difficult with everyone having a body, to recognize with our limited senses that we are interconnected in a unified web of life. We've literally spent millennia trying to remember. And along the way, we've developed many explanations for human suffering, not to mention non-human suffering. We invented religions to offer brief escapes from the pain we feel, along with many philosophies that explain away our human existence. Calling it an illusion is the big one. We've even gotten physicists in on the act, finally catching up with the mystics. What if, as I believe is true, Spirit's greatest gift is embodiment? What if we've simply misunderstood? The body, it is said in the Bible, is the temple of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, let's look at that, not holy. Holy has a bad connotation. It means something to me and to many people that have been raised with a false sense of holiness. It means something completely different than what it actually means. The root is from wholeness or health. Health comes from wholeness. Holistic. You can spell that with a W or an H. I don't care. But there is an interconnected web of life. I'm absolutely convinced of it, despite the fact that there have been many times in my life that I wished I could escape my body. So I understand all of the spiritual practices that have been developed to escape. I've been there. I know what it's like. I felt it. I felt the anguish of having to deal with situations that I felt like I had no control, where I was absolutely powerless, where I was absolutely a victim of life. In my first marriage, I used to pray, God, let one of us die. I don't care which one. I just don't like. This is not fulfilling for me. It's not fulfilling. And I've met many people in my life that have suffered tremendous abuse. I've done the workshop since 1994 with Art Sellers first and with Scott and Mark and Margie after Art died. I've been involved in some inner healing work, some inner child work, some emotional release work. I've been involved. And I've heard the stories of the painful, heart-rending sometimes stories of what people have gone through in their lives, sometimes when they were just little children being abused. And I know Teal Scott says that we've all chosen it, and probably at some level she's right. I don't know that for a fact. I do know that there are many things that have happened to me in my life that I would have never consciously chosen. I would have never said, yes, I'm willing to do that. Because I'm not willing to suffer. I'm not willing to put myself in harm's way on purpose. I'm not willing to do that. And I said myself. Yesterday I talked about being authentic or being no one or nobody. Well, as I said in the blurb, there are a lot of spiritual practices where being nobody and no thing is highly praised and touted That's one of the marks of an enlightened person or a spiritual person. Well, I guess I'm not very enlightened and very spiritual because I believe, as I said in the title of today's message, that being embodied is Spirit's greatest gift to us. We have just simply not yet grasped the importance and the dynamic that's available in our flesh, the power that we have in our bodies, the power that we have in our minds and with our words and with our emotions, the power that we've not learned yet or remembered yet how to direct that energy to create the world we want. And for me, I rail against and will rail against anything that I perceive as spiritual escapism. Because right now, what Spirit's saying to me, and I do believe, maybe I'm wrong, but I do believe it's a message to all of humanity, that it's time to embrace our physical existence. It's time to take responsibility for it and not try to escape it, not try to label it as something undesirable. I understand where these philosophies have come from. I understand the psychological need to try to deaden the emotional and spiritual pain that we feel of the alienation that we have felt as we developed spiritual amnesia and forgot our source. I get that. Oh, I understand that. And it is important for every human being to realize that, hey, I am more than just this body. I am more than what is visible, than what I can sense with my five senses. I am more than that. It's really important that all of humanity gets that message, because that's core, that's essential to the transformation of human society. And human society does need to be transformed. Everything is ass backwards. Everything in our culture is a lie. Virtually the whole culture is a lie. But our bodies are not. Our egos are not lies. Our identity, developing an identity, that's why we have bodies. To develop a personal, individual identity. But not to use our individuality and our personality to fight life, but to embrace life and get to a point where we understand the gifts we've been given, including the ego, including the body, including the development of personality, including, yes, the contrast that we've given ourselves so that we could get it, because we couldn't get it if the people that are not, the beings that are not embodied and have never been embodied are clueless. And so when they channel information to us and they're not embodied, they don't have a clue what it's about. We're ahead of them. We're ahead of them. We're not behind them. We're ahead of them. We've been given a gift to actually bring into physical manifestation and visible manifestation the invisible world of spirit, of energy. We have been given that gift to embody the invisible, to embody the creative spirit, to embody life itself, and to hold that treasure in our bodies. And that's why when I hear these spiritual teachers teaching escapism, it just irritates me to the core, because that's not what Spirit is saying to me, and I don't believe it's what Spirit is still saying to anyone, although there may be short-term processes that are valid in today's world for people that are waking up, but they're short-term. Long-term, we're here to embody the manifestation of the kingdom of heaven and to create heaven on earth. That's what I believe my mission is. That's why I get involved in things that are actually doing something. It's why I got involved in pushing Nassar at one point. It's why I got involved in the Republic movement. It's why I've been involved in the sovereignty movement and the free man movement. Because the culture that we've lived in is a lie. It's all false. And anybody that doesn't believe that hasn't studied it. hasn't looked into it at all and is still in the deception of the matrix. That's just the way it is. I'm not trying to sell you a religion. In fact, I'm not in favor of religion. Ultimately, religion is going to have to go the way that money's going to go and government is going to go. We're not going to need those things. The only reason we've needed them is because they are temporary scaffolding to get us to where we're going, to get us to wake up and to remember and to embrace with gratitude that which we've been gifted with, namely our identity and our bodies. Those are critically important because that's a furtherance of the evolutionary process. It's making the invisible visible. And that's what creation is all about. When everything was invisible, when everything was not light, but darkness, when there was no knowledge, when everything was one, you might say, well, that's bliss. Well, there's a bliss that's waiting for us when we fully come through this evolutionary process and come out on the side of remembrance. This do in remembrance of me, of remembrance of you, that we are here remembering. Everything is remembering. Everything is integrating. It's not getting rid of something. It's integrating. It's always adding more. It's not taking away. If it's taking away anything, the only thing that's worth taking away is ignorance. Our ignorance of reality. Our ignorance of the interconnectedness of life that allows us to feel that we can abuse something or someone without consequences. That just simply is not true. It's not natural law. Natural law is do no harm. Do whatever you want, but don't harm anyone. Don't take anyone advantage of anyone that is not in perfect agreement. You can agree to do whatever you want to do together. And most of our agreements, if indeed we create our own reality, most of our agreements were not made consciously. They were thrust upon us as humans. And so we rail with anger and bitterness and deep sorrow and sadness and feelings of alienation. And I'm never going to get it right. I can't be good enough. We've all gone through this process. We've all experienced it at some level. At some level, this is the human experience. But there's more. There's more. Spirit keeps saying, but Ron, there's more. Hang on, Ron. Hang on and keep taking one step at a time. Keep moving from one day to the next and doing the next thing that's in front of you to do. And be thankful. Be thankful. And sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm not thankful. Sometimes I bitterly complain to God, to my higher self, and sometimes to people. I bitterly complain because it hurts. This process of birthing into a higher awareness, a higher dimension, if you will, this is not an easy process. It's not easy at all to give up everything we've known. Even if it's been terrible, it's familiar. And the familiar always has a certain level of comfort to it, even if it's hurting. I don't know why it works that way, but it does seem to work that way. And I want to encourage you, as Spirit keeps encouraging me, that there's more, that there's a gift in this body that I haven't fully realized yet in how to channel the energy. That's my energy. I haven't fully comprehended how to access my own value, the value of my talents, gifts, and abilities, the value of my creative force that's within me to make things whatever I want them to be. Maybe we're going to get to the place where we actually do create our own reality. And I mean from the conscious mind. The conscious mind is not bad. It just needs to work in harmony with our emotions, with our spirits, with the visible and the invisible need to merge and to marry. It's an integration of opposites, the masculine and feminine, the light and the dark, the positive and the negative. They do this dance and they stop the duel. The duel is because of ignorance. Dueling is only because we forgot. It's only because we don't remember who we are. Remember and awaken to who you are, and recognize that this physical world is about to be transformed, and we are the transformers. The power of the transformation is in us. We need to take our thoughts and direct them. We need to listen to our emotions and let our emotions guide us. And most importantly of all, we need to take the action necessary to create together in the physical realm that which brings peace and harmony and cooperation rather than continual conflict and competition. This is what's happening in our world today on on July 17th, 2013. This is what's happening right now as I see it in the human family. Thank God for your body, even if it hurts sometimes. I leave you with these thoughts. Namaste.